everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm doing another makeup comparison video, and today, can you guess what it is? It's the 1930s. So I've got my traditional side over here and my modern side over here. Today I'm going to be talking a little bit more about the sort of products available at the times and the modern alternatives that we can use. You know, it's always good to sort of think about how we can do things better. You know, we can really utilize the modern makeup we have available to us. We don't have to pretend like we are also in the 1930s to achieve a 1930s style look. If you want to find out how I did these two looks, just keep on watching. First I'm going to start off with the traditional side. I've just put moisturizer on and I think I'm going to clip my hair out of the way just so, you know, I don't get any makeup on it and I'm not messing around with it the whole time. But in case it doesn't turn out exactly as it is now, can we just appreciate how good my hair is today? I feel so 1930s, like I kind of want to do just my whole face the same, but I'm going to resist because I really want this video, and the 1930s is probably the one most requested after I made my first 1950s one. So until the late 1930s, I think it was around 1937 that the pancake foundation was invented, they just used powders, and because the complexion of the time was quite pinkish, I think I'm going to struggle a bit with this. Wipe it off and start again. So I gave it a go with the powder, and as I expected, it didn't turn out too well. It's not a powder foundation that I have, so it doesn't quite have the coverage or the consistency I'm looking for. So I'm just going to use a liquid foundation and pretend that, you know, it was 1937, 1938 and I was super onto it, and I bought first time pancake foundation was made available to the public. So I'm taking this Revolution Conceal and Hydrate foundation. It's the one I used in my 1940s video as well, just because it's the foundation I have at the moment that has sort of the most pink, rosy sort of undertone and sort of acts similarly to the way that the pancake foundation would have acted. By that I mean it's creamy, it's quite buildable, it's easy to work with on the hands, it's definitely got that slip to it. Back home in New Zealand I had this really good pinkier toned Kryolan, I think it's one of their TV paint sticks, and that was perfect and it would have been ideal for this, but I just didn't bring it with me because it wasn't a product I used a lot and figured, you know, if I'm not using it in my everyday, I don't really want to haul it halfway across the world. Going to stipple this to get the texture a little more even, making sure to get in around the nose. The traditional sides in these series often have, you know, quite a slow start to face makeup compared to the modern side where, you know, we do a lot more face makeup, we use a lot more products these days. I'm not going to set this with powder quite yet because I do want to use a cream blush as well. For the modern side I'm going to take the Illamasqua Skin Base Foundation, which is just the one I have at the moment and I've been using quite a lot. It's definitely got much more of a yellow undertone, which makes it look quite stark against this Revolution one I'm using. I also wish it was slightly more pigmented, you know. I really like a full coverage foundation, and this one just sort of isn't doing it for me as much as I'd like. Just bring it down the neck a little bit. Next I'm taking the e.l.f. 16 Hour Camo Concealer. Take it out because I find that the coverage on this foundation isn't ideal, and particularly here I have a lot of freckles that show up. I did set my camera up so that it looked fairly decent in terms of colour, but now that I've applied this foundation I am looking a little bit ghost-like. That's okay, you know, we're going to reintroduce colour back into the face. I am just quite fair. If I need to in post I can maybe darken it a little bit. So that's that in terms of of the face. This will calm down and oxidize, and with powdering it'll even them out. I know it does look like a lot on camera. We're going to move into the eyes, so I am going to zoom you in a little bit just so I can show you more of what's going on. While I was doing a bit more research for this video, I came across these really interesting colour palette things. I'm going to pop one on the screen here probably, and I'll put the link down below where I found it, about all of the different makeup colours, and especially like eyeshadows and lipsticks they had in, you know, bygone eras, and I found some really helpful ones for the 1930s. I was quite surprised how big the colour range was for eyeshadows back then, so it's going to be quite tricky for me trying to decide what colour eyeshadow to go for. I think I want to go for a purple, but the only matte one I have is quite dark, so I might just test it on my hand to see how it looks and then decide if we want to go for it on the eye. Okay, so I've just had a wee look through my eyeshadows and concluded that I do not have what I'm looking for, but I'm going to do my best to kind of get the closest thing. I was really looking for sort of a lilac-y purple or an olive green. I just don't have any matte shades of those, so I have quite a good metallic green here, and I've got this deep purple shade which I'm going to be using, but the problem is it just doesn't have quite the undertone I'm looking for. I have also had this one which is pretty close, but again metallic. So now that this is set just a little bit, I'm going to take a little more just on my under eye area to help cover up the darkness peeking through. You know, the pancake foundation that they did have, that's very buildable, and powder foundations are also very buildable. You know, I believe you can still find the original sort of Max Factor. I think they still make their pancake foundations, but they're in a really limited shade range, and I think you can only find them online. So, you know, kind of tricky to get a hold of, but very buildable. You know, I'd recommend something like one of the Krylon paint sticks, as I've mentioned. Any sort of stick foundation is kind of close to a pancake foundation, although, you know, those ones were activated with water and these ones are a bit shinier. You know, it's really not unreasonable that people would have quite high coverage foundation in the 1930s. You know, it was available to them. You know, of course, just like today, most women don't wear a full face, but some still would have chosen to, and I think there's a lot of contention in the vintage scene between like what authentic really is and isn't. Okay, so I'm taking this dark purple eyeshadow by McGrath and just patting it on the lid. You know, this isn't so much of a 1930s everyday look. For something like that, they'd probably use maybe like a pale olive green shadow or a sort of apricot-y colour, or it was just a more adventurous woman. You know, I try to make these authentic comparison videos as close as I can get, but of course my own take on makeup is slightly different to other people's. So in my day-to-day I don't do a traditional 50s, I'm very much gothic leaning. I don't know, I guess what I'm saying is that everyone does their makeup individually, and even back, you know, in the 1930s there wasn't one way of doing makeup, and to think there was is kind of ridiculous. You know, we've seen photos all the time of groundbreakers from different eras. Someone like Vampira springs to mind. You know, she had a shaved mohawk and extreme drawn on eyebrows, but you know, she was still around doing that in the 50s. You know, we don't all have to look like Betsy down the road going out to pick up a newspaper. I'm also taking this eyeshadow quite high, particularly in the centre, just because it kind of creates more of the eye shape we're looking for, which was quite sort of round. You know, it wasn't droopy like the 1920s, but it was still quite, I don't know what the word is, maybe blown out. I'm trying to pat around the edges to make it blended and soften it a little bit. was just looking at some reference images, and I'm just going to take a little bit of the eyeshadow on the very outer corner of my eye. Now if I had that olive green I was talking about, I think I would do it a lot more, but I just kind of want to add a little something. We will be building up the lashes on the lower eye, but just a little bit more depth. So this is the sort of eyeshadow placement for the 1930s, for the traditional side. Then I'm going to go on to the modern side, and then we're going to do, I never know whether to do eyebrows before I do mascara. I think I will do eyebrows before mascara, but after eyeshadow. Not sure if that order really makes sense. That's what I've been doing in my day-to-day makeup recently as well. I almost forgot a crucial part of the eye, which was getting rid of this more matte look, getting it a bit shinier with Vaseline. Yes, so they did used to put Vaseline on the eye just to make it a little bit shinier. This is tricky, and you know, it might be patchy and it will crease. It's just how it is. So since they didn't have metallic eyeshadows, they would get the sheen in by just popping Vaseline over their eyeshadow. Some of their eyeshadows also came in a cream formula. See what that's done to the eye? I think I might just go back in with a little bit of the purple just to try and... No, you know what? It looks good. We'll check in on that later. For the modern side, instead of putting Vaseline over eyeshadow, we can just use a metallic one, which will give us that sheen straight away and won't have, you know, a greasy, hard to work with eye. I honestly don't think the modern interpretation is going to turn out that different from the traditional side. I think because of the way the 1930s kind of is, I know it's hard to sort of advance on it. Like, there are things you can do like false eyelashes and like more black eyeshadow, but it's just got such a strong signature look that it's kind of difficult to modify in some ways. So I'm using quite a flat brush just because that's easier to apply metallics with, gives them their shine. I think I'm going to take it a little higher. Now I'm actually really looking forward to eventually doing this for the 1920s makeup, because modern 1920s makeup is such a pet peeve of mine. I remember, I think it was in high school or just after high school, I went to a 1920s themed party. I was the only one who didn't have black and white eyeshadow on. And I was the only one who did finger waves, and I was the only one to wear a drop waist dress. I'm very aware how hypocritical it is, but something just grinds my gears when people try to pass off modern 1920s makeup as authentic 1920s makeup. And I don't know, I'm thinking maybe I'll do 2 videos for that, a day look and a nightwear look, just because for me personally the 1920s is, and you know, for so many people it's so iconic. That style is gorgeous and it's so unique, and really the difference between day and night and then movie star makeup was so great. Now I'm just taking some black eyeshadow on a little pencil brush and deepening up the outer corner of my eye and my crease. Still trying to keep it quite smoky. Yeah, as you can see on this eye, already some creasing. Honestly, I'd really like to go back in time and sort of ask them how they found that, what they did about it. It's always kind of interested me, and especially because I hate that feeling. I'm very much a matte makeup person. If you haven't already gathered this, can't stand the feeling of anything slippery and shiny on me. Like a lipstick I can, but even then sometimes when it's too creamy I'm just like not that much of a fan. But yeah, eye makeup or a face that is not, you know, matte feeling or at least dry, just really. So I'm just adding a bit more eyeshadow into this to sort of blend into my Vaseline and incorporate it a little better. It's darkened it up a bit, but I don't think it's really too much, you know. I find this eyeshadow is quite challenging as well, and that it doesn't really like to stay where you put it. There we go, so I'm just putting that one the very outer edge of my eye. And now it's everybody's favourite part of the 1930s makeup, the eyebrows. So quite a few women in the 1930s shaved off their eyebrows, so you know, very period appropriate. I just don't like them because I like to draw them on how I want, how I feel on the day. Now I don't have any eyebrow sort of pencils, and I will be trying to match sort of my natural hair that's growing out at quite an extreme rate, particularly in isolation. So I'm just going to take a dark brown powder to start with. Now the 1930s eyebrow was very much a semicircle sort of rainbow. In the 20s is very, you know, that sad girl Clara Bow look, but in the 30s, just a big old half moon on the face, really. I love an extremely thin eyebrow. It's not something I do very often, but whenever I do it, I just feel so cool and so stylish. Don't want mine to be too thick at the start. Generally the eyebrows were the thickest in the center of the brow. So I'm just sort of wiping away a bit of the product here, blending in the foundation. I'm going to take the shadow again, build up the center. When I first started getting into makeup, and I was getting into the vintage style then, I never really did anything with my eyebrows, and then I went to Art Deco weekend in Napier. I went to a beauty therapy place and I got my eyebrows threaded into a shape that would make it easier for me to do 1920s and 30s makeup, and I loved it. But of course, because it was where my natural eyebrow was, I couldn't quite get that really extreme shape I was looking for. Then they still looked alright, but they definitely could have been better. But I love this eyebrow shape. It's one of my favorites, like just so thin that you just look like you don't care about anyone else in the world. I think that's good. Less is more with the brows. And now coming onto the modern side, you know, again, it's the 1930s. It's kind of hard to say what is more of a modern take on this. I guess, unlike all of the other eras, you could kind of go thicker on the brow. I'll see. Maybe I'll raise it up a bit more. But even then, like, raising it up and making it longer, it's still, there were women and movie stars who did it that way at the time. Do you not love this brow shape? I think I'm gonna actually just make this side darker. Yeah, I think that looks a bit more modern. Does it not look like those 90s sort of sperm eyebrows now though? So next we're going to move on to mascara. Now, I wish I had the Besame Cake mascara. I really should have invested in it. I've been meaning to for a number of years, but it's something I just never get around to, and Besame seems to be always changing where and how they're stocked and how you can buy them and from which countries. So I'm just going to, I think I'm just going to have to go in with a normal spoolie mascara, you know. I thought about maybe taking this and some water on a black eyeshadow, but then it's not going to be, you know, the same sort of formula. I'm just wetting it and then scrubbing it. Also, I do have the worst eyelashes in perhaps the world. No, they're just so straight. And I'm using the Revlon Volumazing, which I used in my 1940s video. I only have 2 mascaras and this one is just the best. It's separating and lengthening. See, it's a bit better. And taking it onto the lower lashes lightly as well. Now for the modern side, I'm going to go in with this Essence, I think this one said Lash Princess Mascara. Now, surprise surprise, I am going to be putting false lashes on the side as well. You know, I do wish I had more of a range of false eyelashes, but they're just not something I tend to wear every day, and especially not the glue-on ones. On the lower lashes. Now for the finishing touch on the modern side, I am just going to highlight the underbrow. It's nowhere near high enough already, and we need the illusion of it just lifting up off my face. So here are my eye looks so far. I've got the traditional 1930s eye and the modern 1930s eye. I'll still be adding lashes and maybe do a little bit more detailing after I've finished up the face and lips, which we're moving on to next. Things that's quite interesting about the 1930s is they did contour the face, but they did it with blush. So the ideal sort of face shape was the heart face shape in the 1930s, which is, you know, just a gorgeous face shape. So I'm going to be taking, surprise surprise, a lipstick to use as a blush, and to try and help create that heart shaped face. The blush is going to sort of be in a triangle like this, so you're making the eye, you know, see your face pulling down into a point. Now I'm using one of the NARS Velvet Matte Lip Pencils, and this is the shade Dolce Vita. I'm using this one because it is quite a sort of apricot-y, pinky shade that I think looks quite close in terms of colour to the images that I've seen. There we go. So just a triangle to start with. It does look a bit bizarre. And just blending it out with the finger. Camera card just filled up, so I've just popped a empty one in now. So I've finished blending out this blush, and it is sort of really giving me that shape that I'm looking for. So now it's time to powder. I'm using the same one I used in my last video, so this is a mix of 2 Ben Nye powders, I'm pretty sure, and just powdering the whole face. Again, this is what I would use a powder puff for, and they would have used a powder puff for, but I do not have one. You got that really nice matte complexion, and with the blush just shaping our face ever so slightly. To the modern side, I do much prefer powder products, so I will just be going in with powder and then doing my blush and contour on top. I like to use my sponge just to do the under eye area to make sure that it's really packed in and isn't going to crease, and then I'll usually take a brush on the rest of the face. go, so now that that's well powdered, I'm going to go in first with contour. I'm just taking this bronzery shade to start with and starting to shape the face. This is looking much more extreme on camera than in real life. We are going to buff it out. So taking it quite high and bringing it low just to help shape the face into that heart shape. I'm also going to take some under my jawline to help just soften out that so we can imagine, you know, it comes down like a heart. I'm going to take my powder brush, sort of soften that a little bit. This blush is actually the same shade name as the lipstick I used for my cream blush here. Just going to start off with this quite lightly and focusing it on the cheekbone, sort of in the middle of the cheek, and bringing it up and down. Bringing it a little closer under the eye too. I noticed quite a lot in reference images that sort of came, it's quite spread out. There we go, and that's the face part of the modern side. Do you see sort of that illusion it's doing, just sort of trimming that part of my face away with the shadow. Heading out this under eye, and then heading out this eye as well. I feel like this side is requiring a lot of maintenance. And now it's onto lip. 1930s had quite a distinct lip look. It was sort of between the 40s and the 50s, I would say, in terms of the shape. I'm going to go in with the Satin lip pencil on the traditional side and just start carving out my shape. So what I mean by it being kind of between the 40s and 50s is that in the 40s it was quite a sort of sloped wide lip, and then in the 1950s it was a bit more, you know, taut with more of a cupid's bow. So in the 1930s you want quite a defined cupid's bow but also quite wide looking lips. So I've just followed my natural lip line underneath and then taken it a little bit higher just to create that shape. On the modern side, taking a lip pencil just trying to carve out, honestly, quite a similar shape to the other side. This is what I mean, it's sort of hard to, I find it at least hard to interpret this style in, you know, a different and more modern way. Now I'm going to take this little lipstick for the modern side. I think it might be a bit dark, we'll see how it goes. They did also in the 1930s do a two-toned lip, so they'd use a darker shade on the outside and then fill in the centre with a lighter shade. Smudge away a little bit of that centre. And I'm going to apply the lip product that I actually used as my blush from the traditional side. Great, so the traditional side is all done. I'm just going to do the finishing touches with the modern side by popping on those lashes. So I'm doing magnetic lashes, so I'm just going to pop a bit of this magnetic eyeliner on, just very close to the lash line. If I wasn't going to do false lashes, I would still, for the modern side, do a thin strip of eyeliner just to enhance the lash line. So yeah, the whole point of my sort of modern versus traditional series is to sort of look at exactly what they did back then and kind of show how we do it today, whether intentionally or not. You know, a lot of people get very caught up in being authentic and exactly to the era in this community, which, you know, I completely understand. There's definitely some value in replicating some things authentically if that's your style, but we can't just pretend like we're honestly doing everything the way they used to. I find this magnetic lash liner very difficult to work with actually. It's very thick and sticky. It sort of seems to dry a bit too quickly to do a smooth line. Also, you know, when you do your makeup exactly authentically, it can look a little bit too minimal. You know, especially like if I do end up doing this daytime 1920s look, you'll see, you know, no one would really wear that today, and it does look a bit bizarre even if you're doing like quite a traditional look to just wear that sort of amount of eye makeup. But I think there's definitely a time and place, you know, places like the Twinwood Vintage Festival and Art Deco Weekend, like those are perfect for just being entirely authentic. But you know, I think it's just a bit more fun to embrace the products we have these days and make something, you know, bigger and bolder and more exciting than what that was available to them at the time, because I'm sure if they had these products they wouldn't have been wearing, you know, such minimal things. So the liner's on. I'm just going to flex my lash out a bit. I'm trying to help shape it because I find it quite difficult on my eyes sometimes. Popped into place. Now I am going to take a second coat of mascara on the traditional side as well. Just really trying to pull those lashes up, make them as long as they can be. Alright, and there we have it. I'll unpin my hair and we'll go into the conclusion. So here we go. Here are my finished 1930s looks. So we've got the traditional side right here. And we've got the modern side over here. The 1930s style is just such a gorgeous one, you know, and it can be kind of hard to pinpoint as it's not too different to the 1920s, but then in a lot of ways it kind of is. I don't know, I see a lot of people being kind of confused about it online sometimes. I would say the key points are a nice sort of softer smoked out shimmery lid, nothing too bold. Of course the little rainbow eyebrow, very thin at the front as well. The thickest part should generally be the middle. We've got the triangle of blush as well, and then we have quite a shaped lip. So for the modern side I've sort of interpreted it, we've done a metallic eyeshadow so we don't have to worry about Vaseline and it creasing and it just generally being a mess. The eyebrow is a little darker, a little thicker at the front, but still quite raised. The blush as well, quite strong and the same sort of triangle placement. We've also done contour to help shape the face into that sort of heart-shaped ideal that we're going for. Then for the lip, just a little darker, a little more bold, and ever so slightly bigger. And then of course, you know, we've got the false lash as well. That sort of concludes my 1930s vintage versus modern style. I hope you enjoyed this one. I will definitely be working towards a 1920s one later, and I have thought about doing a 1960s one, but I'm not too sure. Would you guys be interested in that? Just pop a comment down below, because I am sort of worried that it's a bit like the 1930s where it's similar on both sides, but then I look at this in my monitor and then in the mirror and they do look quite different while being the same. So do you like the 1930s look? If you do decide to replicate it, definitely tag me on Instagram or something. I love looking at different people doing makeup. And also let me know if you guys prefer the traditional or the modern side. I know there's been quite a lot of push for the traditional sides in my other videos, but I really think this side looks better. videos. Also, if you can, hit the subscribe button, it would mean a lot to me. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.